Good evening and welcome to this regular meeting of the Council of the Municipality of North Perth. Our meeting date is Monday, July 4th, 2022. I'm Mayor Todd Kasenberg and I'll call this meeting to order. I ask the clerk to note our starting time for the minutes as 7 p.m. Councillors have returned to the council chamber in Listowel, joined by the clerk team and IT staff who are supporting this meeting. We are still supported by various digital technologies, with staff and delegates having opportunity to use our web conferencing tool, and members of the public still invited to our live stream on YouTube. It is reassuring that Councillor Johnston is wearing pants, and I can confirm that I am wearing dress shoes instead of runners. At this time, I'd like to invite all who are in attendance to rise for the playing of O Canada. We acknowledge that we are in the traditional land of the Anishinaabe peoples. We wish to recognize the long history of Indigenous peoples in Canada and show our respect to them today. We recognize their stewardship of the land. May we all live with respect on this land and live in peace and friendship. Tonight's meeting is being streamed live on the Municipality of North Perth YouTube channel and will be available there after the meeting as an archived video. Anyone who is invited to speak will be recorded and their voice, image, and comments will form part of the live stream. The chair and/or the clerk have the discretion and authority at any time to direct the termination or interruption of live streaming. Such direction will only be given in exceptional circumstances where deemed relevant. Circumstances may include instances where the content of debate is considered misleading, defamatory, or potentially inappropriate to be published. Thank you. Welcome to those who are joining us via the YouTube channel. Welcome to councillors, staff, and delegations who will participate in this meeting. It feels like a remarkable event that we're back together in the same room, breathing the same air. And it is exciting, I think, to many of us to be here. At this time, I invite your decorum over the course of the meeting. I advise that I do have attendance regrets tonight from Councillor Matt Richardson. Let us move first to item 2.1 of our agenda pertaining to pecuniary interest. For the benefit of those unfamiliar with our council practices, provincial legislation requires councillors with potential pecuniary or financial interest in any item at the council table to declare this interest and to remove her or himself from discussions and voting on the item. In accordance with recommended protocol, at this time I invite all councillors with perceived pecuniary interest, including those who have already declared in writing, to verbally advise the chair in public session and to submit documentation, if not already done, to this effect in writing to the clerk. Councillors are further reminded that should a potential conflict arise during the meeting, they may so declare and act at any point in the meeting. Tonight we do have one that we're aware of at this point, and I'll call on Councillor Leanne Andreessen to make that declaration. Just give me a second to set the microphone here.
Good evening, Mayor Kasenberg and fellow councillors. It's great to be back. I'm going to be declaring pecuniary interest on items 7.1 and 7.2. These items pertain to the Municipal Agricultural Society regarding some requests with their fair, and I'm currently a director of the Municipal Agricultural Society. And then subsequently with 13.1, the Confirmatory Bylaw, I'll be refraining from participating in that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Andreessen. Any other councillors wishing to make such a declaration at this time? I'm not seeing any evidence of that. As already noted, some staff, experts, and delegates are remote tonight and are availing themselves of web conferencing technologies to participate in this meeting. They are invited to speak when called upon by yours truly. Should any wish to be recognized, they should draw attention to themselves through our conferencing technologies chat function. Remote participants are asked to generally maintain a mute state in the web conference until I recognize your right to the floor. If, when I do so, recognize I don't hear you because you are muted or are having some technical difficulty, I will advise and we'll see what we can do to figure that out. I invite patience from all as we work our way into revised procedures. They are somewhat familiar to me from a few years ago, but there may be times when I'm just a little slow to trigger things. Pardon me. I have been advised that we are removing tonight's closed session, Council, from our meeting. And so regarding item 2.2 on our agenda, I have an adjusted motion before me for the adoption of the agenda for tonight's meeting that reads as follows: that the agenda for tonight's meeting be approved as amended to remove item 11 regarding a closed session meeting pertaining to a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board regarding Plan 259, Lot 99, Lot B, Lot C, Part Lot D, 133 Arthur Street, Atwood, Municipality of North Perth. Who would like to be our mover for this? Councillor Seiler is moving. Councillor Anstead is our seconder. Is there any discussion or debate? Seeing none, let's have that vote. And that is carried. Thank you. We're now at item 3 on our agenda, the so-called consent agenda. These items are placed on our agenda because they are believed to be non-contentious, yet they require or warrant Council's recognition and action. Grouping them expedites our business. However, any councillor wishing to extract an item from the consent agenda for discussion, debate, and individual action may do so. There are 9 items on our consent agenda tonight, including the minutes of our last regular council meeting. Councillors, do any of you have a desire to extract any of these items for further discussion or action? I'm not seeing any indication of same, so I have a motion for our consideration to receive 9 items and approve previous council minutes as follows: that consent items, 3.1 to 3.9 be received for information in the minutes of the June 20th, 2022 regular council meeting be adopted. Who would like to serve as mover for this? Councillor Rothwell, thank you. Councillor Duncan as our seconder. Any discussion or debate at this time? Seeing none, let's have that vote. And that is carried. Thank you. At this time, then, it's proposed that we move to agenda item number 4. Tonight, we have one public meeting that is scheduled pertaining to the review of the report of the appointed engineer for the Henderson Municipal Drain. To enable the public meeting, we must temporarily recess from a regular council meeting. I have a resolution that enables us to do so as follows: that the Council of the Municipality of North Perth adjourns at 7:09 p.m. for the purpose of a public meeting under the Drainage Act concerning the following. Public meeting to consider the Mayberry Hartung Municipal Drain. Is that correct? Thank you. Could I invite a mover? Councillor Berens, thank you. And Councillor Johnston is our seconder. Any discussion or debate on this motion to adjourn briefly, recess briefly? Seeing none, let's have that vote. And at this point, that is carried. Thank you. That means we are temporarily adjourned. Let's turn our attention then to the public meeting. This is a public meeting for the consideration of the report for the Mayberry Hartung Municipal Drain. At this time, any assessed landowners who have joined us remotely are welcomed. We welcome all who are participating in this meeting. We're going to turn our attention to the report that is being presented by Matt Ash, who is with GM Blue Plan Engineering Limited. Welcome, Mr. Ash.
Thank you, Mayor Kaisenberg. You're probably wondering why this drain has two names. That is because this is actually called the Mayberry Drain today. However, there are two Mayberry drains in North Perth. And so we felt that this was the opportunity to change the name of this one. So there was no repetition. So we are changing it to be called the Hartung Municipal Drain in the future. So a request for improvement to this drain was received from the municipality. And the request is related to the ongoing development of the northeast lands, as council is probably aware of. And the main intent is to gain a new outlet to a proposed stormwater management facility that will be servicing those northeast lands. The Mayberry Drain, as it exists today, was originally constructed in 1952, and it serves lands in both Wallace and Listowel, with an outlet into the Middle Maitland River, just above Listowel. It was actually reconstructed in 1992 under a report done by K. Smart Engineering. That reconstruction included new tile drains and a stormwater management facility that is currently in existence behind Hudson's. That 1992 report was actually the subject of a very well-known decision of the Court of the Drainage Referee, well-known in drainage circles, I should point out. That's actually quite rare. The drainage referee only hears about one or two cases per year. So it's very rare to go to the referee, and this one actually did. So the drain contained various branches at the time, previously listed as branches A through E, and that was in 1952, that served lands along Wallace Avenue North and Highway 23 at the time. In 1992, branches B, D, and E were abandoned. We also found that branch A, which used to serve lands along David Street, in 1992, David Street did not exist. However, since that time, that street has been built, and we believe branch A no longer exists. We also believe that branch C no longer exists either, and that serves lands south of the Hudson's dealership. In total, there's about 54 hectares of land within the watershed, which is actually a slight reduction from 1992. And that's mainly due to development changes within the urban boundary that has taken water in a different direction. So in order to affect the new outlet, we held a site meeting on November 10th on Walton Avenue. There was 15 landowners in attendance, which is quite good. And they all gave us comments and opinions, most of which matched our preliminary findings and my understanding of this drain from previous work on it. The landowners noted at the time that they did not believe the existing stormwater management facility was functioning properly. And from field investigation, we concur with that opinion. It was also discussed with the landowners at the time that the proposed reconstruction of Walton Avenue and Davidson Ave North and David Street and environs in that area will likely render most of the Mayberry drain unnecessary, as municipal storm sewers are expected to take its place. Also, as I mentioned, a new stormwater facility is planned for the east side of Walton Avenue, and that will replace the existing stormwater facility. The new facility, however, as I mentioned at the start, needs an improved outlet across the field to the east to get into the open ditch portion of the Mayberry. However, that new outlet tile will serve only the stormwater facility, and the existing tile drain will remain in the ground to be available for field drainage purposes for that landowner. However, it will not receive water from any other source. So as a result of the planned reconstruction in that area, as well as the existing abandonments that already took place in 1992, we found that most, if not all of the Mayberry drain, well, all of the Mayberry drain upstream of the new stormwater facility is no longer required and should be abandoned. We also propose to install a new 900 millimeter diameter concrete drain tile from the stormwater facility to the open ditch to allow for outlet of that storm sewer, of the stormwater facility. As I mentioned, that new tile will serve only the stormwater facility and no other connections will be permitted to it. Since this improved drain serves only municipal storm sewers, which we understand are in the stormwater levy area, the estimated cost is assessed entirely to the municipality, as is all future maintenance. The work involved, even though there is an estimate in this report, the work involved is actually included in the Northeast Lands Development Project, which is currently out for tender. So it will not be done separately. There are some allowances provided to the neighboring landowner for crossing his field. But other than that, there is really nothing to be assessed to any other landowner in the watershed. So relatively simple, I hope. If council has any questions, we'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Mr. Ash. Councillors, any questions or comments on this matter at this point? Do we have any landowners who've identified with us at this hour who wish to present or speak to this matter?
Mr. Mayor, we have one landowner who's in attendance. I'm not sure if they wish to make comments or not.
Okay, so we do have one landowner in attendance, according to the clerk. If that person wishes to make a comment about this matter, they may take themselves off mute and introduce themselves, please. Tell us where you are, and then you're welcome to make your comment. Are we seeing any evidence of that, Clerk Klein? No. Okay. Last call to the individual who's joined us, the landowner who has some interest in this matter. If you wish to make comments, this is your last opportunity to do so. Okay, we're not seeing evidence of that. Okay, let's come back to council then. Councillors, any questions or comments about this at this matter? Councillor Seiler, let me just turn your microphone on. Okay.
Thank you, Mayor Todd. Just for some clarification, Matt, on the property owners north on Highway 23, which is Treasure Islands, Fletcher's, I know that they are always, and it used to be long haul there. I don't know how it is all now, but the Mayberry drain was a big drain for them. How will they be still get the same service as they did before, or was that all shut off, or how is that all laid out now?
Yeah, interestingly, so they used to be served by what was called Branch B, which ran up to the north end there. In 1992, the drainage engineer noted that there had been a private drain installed by those landowners almost adjacent to Branch B that they were using at that time. We couldn't find any evidence that the Branch B that was originally built in 1952 actually existed anymore. It's our opinion that they've hooked into this private one, and we're not entirely sure where it goes. However, as is the usual practice when we reconstruct roads, we connect anything and everything in that we find. So presuming that it comes down and ties into the system somewhere, we will find it and we will connect it into the new storm system.
Any other questions, comments? Okay, I'm not seeing any. There's no evidence that anyone has withdrawn who would have that privilege, and we haven't heard significant concerns raised. So that means at this hour, this meeting can be adjourned. We have a motion to that effect as follows, that the public meeting under the Drainage Act is now adjourned at 7:20 p.m. and that council reconvenes into regular open council. Can I invite a mover for this one? Councillor Andreessen, thank you. And seconder, Councillor Anstedt. Any discussion or debate on this? Seeing none, let's have that vote. And that is now carried. Thank you. That means that this meeting is adjourned. We can now turn our attention back to regular open council meeting. Councillors, we have 3 items pertaining to this matter to consider. The first is the report consideration. So the resolution reads as follows, that the Council of the Municipality of North Perth accepts the Henderson Municipal Drain Report dated May 2022, prepared by GM Blue Plan Engineering Limited. Can I invite one of our colleagues? Mayberry. Thank you. Thank you. Let me read it again. That's why I was asking earlier. I'd seen Henderson somewhere in all of this. So, okay. That the Council of the Municipality of North Perth accepts the Mayberry Hartung Municipal Drain Report dated May 2022, prepared by GM Blue Plan Engineering Limited. Do we have movers and seconders for this already? Councillor Behrens will move, and Councillor Johnston will be our seconder. Thank you. Any discussion or debate? Seeing none, let's have that vote. And that is carried. Thank you. Next pertains to the Court of Revision, and the resolution is as follows, that the Council of the Municipality of North Perth will hold the Court of Revision for the Mayberry Hartung Municipal Drain on August 8th, 2022 at 6:30 p.m. Can I invite a mover for that? Deputy Mayor Callum, thank you, and Councillor Rothwell as our seconder. Any discussion or debate on this? Councillor Johnston.
Will that be live?
I believe that we will use the same technologies that we're using for this council meeting for the purposes of these kinds of meetings moving forward. So, yes, thank you. All right. Any further discussion or debate on this one? Let's have that vote. And that is carried. And we have one more, and our clerk, Ms. Klein, would like to speak to this one. There's some nuance in this that she just wants to make us aware of. So let me just turn on your microphone. Welcome, Ms. Klein.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, just a quick note about the Drainage Works bylaw. We've added in a new clause to the bylaw, clause 4. This authorizes the Finance and Development Coordinator to bill out actual cost as apportioned by the engineer's assessment schedule. So this is mainly just for efficiency purposes. Usually staff would bring forward an additional report to council, and so to eliminate that step and expedite the process, we've just added that clause into the bylaw itself.
Councillors, any questions about this? This is a modest change in process that's believed to improve efficiency. Everyone's sort of gently nodding their heads. Okay, so I have the resolution as follows, that bylaw number 86-2022 being a bylaw to provide Drainage Works Mayberry Hartung Municipal Drain be introduced and considered read a first and second time and be provisionally adopted, and that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and the clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation. Can I invite a mover for this? Councillor Duncan, thank you. And our seconder will be Councillor Seiler. Thank you. Any discussion or debate? Seeing none, let's have that vote. And that is carried. Thank you. Let's proceed then to agenda item 5, reports from the departments and key staff. First is an item coming from the CAO's department. For item 5.1.1, the CAO has supervised the council requested revisions to the departmental business plans for the current year. These revisions take into account changes that have happened to the organizational structure in the last 3 quarters or so. They do not materially change what has earlier been seen in intended activities, just combine groups of employees to align with the revised organizational structure. CAO Snell is absent from tonight's meeting, the result of not feeling well, but he invites questions of department heads who are with us tonight. And should council feel it's needed, he can bring back further questions at a future meeting. So let me sort of bring us back out here and invite council to offer any comments or questions about the report that we received from him and all of the business plans. Councillor Behrens, let's start with you. Press the right button. Go ahead.
Having read through all the plans and realizing that we're still short the number of FTEs in order to accomplish the plans, but realizing also that we are at the beginning of July, which means we're halfway through this work plan. I have genuine concerns, and I understand staff is trying to complete everything that we had set out in the budget to do with some special tasks. But I simply don't know if right now we have the time or the resources to accomplish everything in all of these business plans. And that is my genuine concern, that I still believe there needs to be some priority on what will be worked on first. And if we have staff and resources, we may start a project, but I'm just genuinely concerned. It's an ambitious plan, all of them, and I appreciate that from our staff. But I think reality at the end of the day is sometimes the ship is a little lean, and I think right now we're feeling the effects of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Behrens. Councillor Andreessen, did I see your hand up? Councillor Andreessen is next.
Yes, thank you through you, Mayor Kasenberg. I appreciate Councillor Beer's comments. I have a lot of agreement with that. I also had additional questions. So in the report, it was mentioned that we haven't fulfilled all the positions that we had budgeted for in this current budget. And so I guess my question is, how much is that impacting the work plan? And when is it that we can expect to see more hiring done? Or is it that we're struggling with hiring because of, regional and provincial and national issues with, shortage of labor? So that could be impacting it. And I guess too, in the work plan, I'm seeing that, in terms of moving forward, the expectation is that we may need to look at a consideration of additional staff in the next proposed budget. So it's an issue around, hiring the staff that we've allocated now, and then what are we looking like? Will there be consideration, or will we need to be doing budgeting in the proposed budget next round for more staff? So, it's staffing questions that I have. Thank you.
Okay. I'm going to turn to the clerk. Do you feel that there's anyone online with us tonight from the staff who could address this subject matter?
Questions related to a specific department? Because we do have a couple department heads online.
If I may, I would think that
Hold on.
these questions likely may need to be answered by human resources. So if they're here or not, I'm not sure, but it's because to me it's a hiring issue for some at some point here.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. Unfortunately, we don't have any HR staff online. An option is that we could defer the business plans to a future council meeting date.
And that was the suggestion that CAO Snell had made today, given his notice of absence tonight. that if council had significant questions or concerns, and these are significant questions and concerns, that we consider deferring the approval of these to the next meeting and collect all of our questions. So I think we've noted questions from Councillor Behrens and from Councillor Andreessen. If the rest of my colleagues have other questions, let's get them out at this point so that we can make sure that we get a fulsome report at the next meeting. Anyone wishing to ask anything else about this or make suggestions that are pertinent? I know, Councillor Behrens, you made a significant suggestion there as well, which is how do we prioritize and maybe get to the business of prioritizing. So I think that's important. Councillor Seiler.
No, I think that there's been some valid information brought up here by the council here, and I think that we are coming into an election, and this is a big business plan, and I think that maybe the new council coming in is the ones that want to get really involved with this, because it's going to affect them the most, this business plan. Now, it's a good business plan, but I think that we need to look at that option too, if whatever staff feels. And we've had some changes in our department heads, and we have some more that are leaving, or one or so. So I think that maybe staff needs to take a look at and kind of bring back to us what they feel is best for us to do.
Okay.
And look at with the new council coming in.
Okay. I mean, I think it's important to note that this business plan reflects the activities of the current year. Yep. And projects the next few years loosely, right?
For the summertime now, so
yeah.
our meetings are a bit more limited, and we'll be in September. And
I would expect that, given the guidance I had from CAO Snell about his intentions here, that any questions or suggestions that are made tonight will be brought back at the next council meeting. I don't think that there's any intention to delay this any further, because it does represent in-year work, right? But I understand the premise, which is evaluate what gets pushed down the road if necessary.
And I would think that this should be taken with council and meetings and going through what's involved, like by session or whatever, just to we can sit to get who's ever going to be on the new council. There's one coming in should just be able to sit down and go over it. But they did a good job on it, so it's the timing.
Okay. Yeah, I think we can trap some of these ideas the clerk's table is giving us.
If they need something that need to be dealt with this term, we can deal with it.
Yeah, I think, like I said, I'm from the information I'm given from the CAO. His absence tonight was regrettable, and that he will bring back appropriate reports and actions responding to our concerns. So I think your concern is heard and will be delivered to him appropriately. Anyone else with questions or comments about this that you want addressed at this point? I got to watch when I point, because I need to push first and then point. That's what I need to do. Councillor Behrens.
Yeah, just to clarify, I understand that they've been working on these plans for 6 months. And like anything that's listed in the plan, for example, in administration, there's lobbying, the federal and provincial governments and all. They've been working on that, and that's an ongoing thing. But there are other specific projects that perhaps haven't started yet. And when we're just getting used to the new corporate structure and how it's working and how it's flowing, I really think that there are some within the individual plans that, quite frankly, will not be able to be completed this year. Like, we've been working towards this plan for 6 months. I get that. This is what staff has been doing. But I think right now they'll be able to say, or maybe in September they'll be able to say, okay, we had our best intention, but we will not be able to complete this particular item this year. That's perfectly understandable. I think it's important that these plans get adopted as soon as possible, and I don't want to slow down the adoption of the plans. I just personally don't believe it's really doable right now with the resources that we have. Thank you for letting me make a second comment.
course. I think I concur. Generally, I concur that the report demonstrates that there's 8 full-time equivalents and then a little bit more that are missing from the organization to achieve that plan. So we need to ask staff to be realistic about achieving that plan, given that there's that many people missing. Okay. Any other comments that should be heard for CAO Snell to return back to us? Okay, I'm not seeing any indication of that. We should consider an alternate resolution then. I think we should defer these plans and request the CAO to return an alternate or an updated report that addresses the concerns expressed by councillors during this discussion session. Is that an acceptable approach? Ms. Jameson, you're keeping up with us as always. Okay. So that's the general tone of the resolution, which is defer. And Councillor Barons, let me just get to the microphone here. Yeah, go ahead.
I just questioned Mayor Kasenberg if it wouldn't be better to adopt in principle these plans with an update from our CAO Snell whenever he deems it appropriate. Like maybe it's September that they will know for sure. Maybe we'll get really lucky and we'll be able to hire all the positions and some of it's doable. But I really do believe that we probably should be adopting these in principle.
Okay.
And then if Chris chooses to bring back a updated to us, we can request that.
Okay. So let's, Councillor Barnes has suggested an alternate approach. Councillors, just sort of general sense, how many of you would be comfortable with a resolution that considers adoption in principle? Sort of nod of head would be okay. Nod of head, okay. So then let's take that approach. The Council of the Municipality of North Perth adopts in principle the 2022 business plans, and then do we direct staff to bring forward a recommendation or an update?
Yes.
Yeah, direct staff to bring forward an update regarding those business plans, including performance achievements in September. Sounds okay? Councillor Roswell, suggestions?
I understand Councillor Grant's comment here. So we have to remember as council, all the business plans were adopted, were approved by this council. And this report that we have is revisions of those plans based on our new structure.
Okay.
So they, as I understand from the report, they've been busy working away on these plans. This is not something where council is holding things back. This is the new reimagined or redrawn plans based on our corporate structure. So if there's issues of concern that we have, I think certainly the new structure that we have, they should be able to address those, and we should hear from them soon to ensure the comments that have been made here in terms of priorities and so on, to make sure that the items that are specifically listed are of more importance get done. Certainly what we talked about at the budget was we heard about these plans as well as the budgeting pieces, so that there's 5 different areas. One of them is public health and safety, which is sort of our paramount issue of concern. So if there's any items like that clearly they need to move to the top of the list, at least in my opinion, whereas some that are nice to haves maybe go further down the list. But I've got no issue in terms of adopting a principle, but we have to understand that these plans are already approved by council and they've been working away on these plans, and this is a reconfiguration of the plans to adhere to our new corporate structure. That's all. Thank you.
Turn to the clerk here. Do you have any comments to make about how we proceed?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I think, kind of with the approach that you mentioned earlier in terms of receiving the updated 2022 business plans in accordance with the recommendation in CAO Snell's report, and that staff be directed to bring forward a progress update, whether that's in September or sooner, And that progress update could encompass some reprioritization of projects and work if required.
Okay. So we're sort of, to address Councillor Rothwell's point, business plans have been adopted by Council, and Council's inclination and staff's inclination was to try to rework them for the purposes of bringing the right units underneath the departmental structures. So essentially, we have been working towards this business plan. These are, though, new documents, right? So I think that that's a valid point. The question is then, do we receive these for information at this point, or do we adopt them in principle? And it's a nuance that I'm looking to my colleagues for suggestions. What would you rather do? Would you rather receive these and ask staff to bring forward an update, progress report, and answer our questions, or should we adopt them in principle and again the same intention, which is, go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, in terms of the wording, I think, receiving versus adopting, we're still doing the work. We're still moving forward. So I think either way, whichever direction council chooses, we're still going to continue on a path forward and work towards the goals and the business plans.
Fair enough. Okay. Okay. So shall we go with receive? I think receive is probably okay at this point, but if anyone wants to suggest otherwise, would you rather do the other, adopt in principle?
No, receive is fine. It's just an update around how staffing is going to be addressed in order to support these plans. And I wasn't kind of sure if that was captured or not. I would like that reflected on in terms of an update. Thanks.
Okay, let me just give me a moment to make some notes, all right? I just want to make sure I catch up here. Okay, so here's kind of what I got. I'm going to compare notes with Sarah, if that's all right. Council of the Municipality of North Perth receives the 2022, these are updated business plans, right? So we should call them updated 2022 business plans. And further, that the Council of the Municipality of North Perth directs staff to bring forward a progress report and address questions posed by Council during this meeting. Do we want to set a timeline on this? By September of 22. Okay. Clerk Klein, do you envision any issues with that resolution?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, no, I think
okay.
That seems acceptable, yeah.
Reasonably constituted. Okay. So then let's turn to the Deputy Clerk. You have it? All right, so I have a resolution. We're adopting in principle with the staff direction to bring forward a progress report and address questions posed by Council during this meeting by September of 2022. Who would like to be our mover for this one? Councillor Duncan, thank you. Our seconder will be Councillor Seiler. Now, any further discussion or debate? Councillor Rothwell.
Thank you, Mayor Todd. I'm simply concerned about the date of September. I don't want to put too much strain on staff here, but frankly, with the election in October and with every month moving forward here, is that if we are concerned about implementation and making sure the plan is going to be complete or plans are in place to address priorities or hiring and so on, September, she's pretty well long gone in terms of the annual business plan process. And as our clerk has mentioned, the work is certainly progressing along on these plans and so on. But if indeed the issues of concern that were expressed here at Council tonight are to be addressed, I think they should be addressed sooner than September. And I suspect CAO Snell, if he was here hopefully could have been able to address some of those questions. So I would like to, I mean, if we can say by September, if that report comes sooner than that, I would certainly be very appreciative of that as a councillor, to hear that, and hopefully the rest of the council would as well. But I mean, I can certainly live with the September date. All I'm saying is that if we can have it sooner than that, I think staff, if they can make that happen, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Point made. Anyone wish to consider a revision to the timeline for this item, or shall we leave it by September and trust that the CEO will bring forward as the time permits him to do so? Okay. All right. Any other comments or questions, discussion or debate, any of that kind of thing? I'm not seeing any. I think does anyone need the resolution read back to them at this point? You'll see it on the eScribe screen, I believe, but I think we're ready for a vote, so let's have that vote. And that is carried. Thank you. Let's move next to item 5.2, reports from the Corporate Services Department. For item 5.2.1, the procurement officer has brought forward a report considering efforts towards the corporate insurance policy for the next year, which for our insurance begins on July 14th, 2022. I'm going to call on our Director of Corporate Services and Treasurer, Fran Hale, to introduce this report, and she has an expert guest with her to present and answer questions. Ms. Hale, welcome.
Thank you very much, Mayor Kaysenberg and members of council. Tonight we have Brett Nickel with us from Programmed Insurance Brokers, Inc. Brett is a commercial account executive within PIB's General Insurance Division. And he's here tonight to go over the municipality's insurance renewal proposal for Marsh Canada, Inc. and to answer any questions council might have. I'll turn the presentation over to Brett.
Thank you, Fran. Good evening, Mayor Kaysenberg and council members. You guys hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
All right. I do have a PowerPoint here that I'll just quickly share with you as well to kind of go through this. Are you able to see the PowerPoint presentation?
Not at the moment, no.
Okay, try that again.
And now we can see it.
Okay, perfect. So first off, just like to thank the council members for the opportunity for PIB and myself to look after the insurance for the foreseeable future here. The insurance portfolio this year saw a 10.7% increase. Basically, what we have for our other municipality renewals, any common increases between 18 to 40%. So the 10.7% is actually well below the other increases that we've seen through Marsh Canada. The changes that have basically taken place since the inception with PIB on January 1st they've been fairly small, just an addition of a snowplow, a couple pickup trucks for the auto on the fleet side of things. The major one on the property was the addition of the Atwood Lions rink, and then assuming that responsibility and the liability risk from that. There was also an addition of a backhoe from the Elmira landfill. And then overall, we have a 2.5% rate or inflation increase on the overall buildings. So as you can see on the PowerPoint there, that 2.5% amounts to $3,067,953 in increased building limits. So that is basically the renewal in itself, any of the changes that have occurred since January the 1st. In the coming weeks, myself and a couple other colleagues will visit all the buildings, do our annual inspections and stuff like that, take photos and do building evaluations to ensure the accuracy of those current building limits. And then I have included the overall proposal as well into the PowerPoint. So there's the Canadian Council liability. So there's a 5 million liability limit. Then on top of that, we also have the first layer, which is 20 million, and then an additional 25 million on top of the original underlying 5. And then this is where you get into the physical property. So there's 137 million and assets, basically buildings, that's all contents, equipments throughout the course of North Perth and all the properties. That also is the machinery breakdown coverage. So any sudden or accidental breakdown in any sort of working mechanism with inside those buildings. It would not cover for wear and tear. However, those breakdowns do happen and do occur throughout the course of other insured incidences. Comprehensive crime coverage. So this is any basically dealing with any money or any monetary assets, I guess, which would be theft from employees, that sort of thing. It has a list of coverages all on there too, and I can provide a copy of this proposal. I do believe Josh White has a copy of it, but and then the automobile insurance, nothing really changed on the auto at all. Aviva is still the insurance company on the auto. It's just ran through Marsh. And then for the counselors yourself, the accident coverage that you all have access to, which is a $250,000 sum, ran through AIG. Then there's also the municipal accident coverage, which is included in the overall proposal. This is the low risk events liability, which could be something that that could be looked at down the future. Josh and I had discussed this since with all rental in all the facilities within North Perth, you would have a rental agreement. There'd be a fee associated to that. One of the insurance companies that we do deal with on other user groups is Trinity in underwriting. Basically what they do is they assign a fee to each rental, which then would recoup some of the costs, and also the risk exposure would lie on the end user. And then the cyber liability, which this actually saw a small increase compared to last year, compared to what we initially had thought. Cyber with the ongoing COVID pandemic has been a very large insurance topic as of late. So I was actually happy with the terms that came in from the cyber provider, which is through CFC underwriting, which many of the cyber products are ran through. The DAS legal protection policy is included into the proposal this year. I know that in past years that North Perth has opted out of that, and you have utilized a legal counsel. I believe Josh had indicated in Waterloo. This is a $9,848 policy. So that is a savings that we could take advantage of as well. I just wanted to point that out for you. So that's pretty much all I have on the insurance standpoint from the renewal. The renewal was July the 1st, and apologies with everything that has happened through Marsh. They did warrant a 14-day extension. So technically there is 14 days of coverage right now, but the policy still will be July 1st going forward. So just make note of that. There is that 14-day of coverage, and then it will be July 1st again come the following year.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Nicol. Ms. Hale, do you have any sort of further comments to make at this point?
Thank you, Mayor Kiesenberg. No, I feel that Brett has covered all of the main topics with regard to our coverage. And I guess one of the questions I might have for him, if council decided this evening to forgo the legal coverages, is that something that can be done on the fly, Brett, and that a dollar amount and we could adjust for that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
eliminated it in the past.
Yeah, absolutely. The dollar amount, the premium is $9,848. That was just included. They wanted to have that included when it was sent over. So if that's something that the council would like to amend and remove from the proposal, I can certainly have that done first thing tomorrow morning.
I guess from my perspective, given that we haven't had it or ever used it in the past, I know we've taken it out the last couple years, and prior to that, we have never accessed it. So from my point of view, I believe that it's not something that I feel that we need at this time. It is nice sometimes to have another solicitor involved in addition or other than the insurance solicitor that's covering the particular case. We have found in the past that there have been some advantages to that. So that would be my suggestion, is that we would save that 9,000, but this is simply up to councils to decide what should be done this evening.
Thank you, team. Appreciate the presentation. At this time, I'll turn to council for questions or first comments. Anyone? Councillor Anstead.
Thanks, Mayor Kaysenberg, and thanks very much, Brett, for your presentation. One question I did have, and I know you touched on it, was just regarding the increase, and you talked about increased costs in our replacement values and inflation and those sorts of things. I know it's difficult to predict, but what do you think, looking at our risk profile, could you speak on projected increases the next several years?
Yeah, it's definitely hard to determine projected rate increases. I think anything under the 20% increase is fair. What we saw on risks such as this size. We also have saw other risks on municipalities anywhere from, like I said earlier, 18 to 40%. However, there was a lot of changes that did occur, additional buildings and any other sort of vehicle changes or whatever may have amounted to that 40% increase. But I would say anywhere from 15 to 20 probably would be realistic in the future, but obviously we'd like to have that as low as we possibly can.
Could we get a copy of this sent to us as well, the proposal, the full policy?
Actually, I can look after that.
Oh, great.
I'll send the proposal out in the morning.
Thanks, Fran.
Thank you. Councillor Rothwell is next. Go ahead.
Thanks very much, Mayor Todd, through you, and thanks, Fran, and thanks, Brett, for your presentation. Could I just get you to put up, if it's possible, the slides dealing with the legal again? I appreciate the comments Fran made. I just wonder if, Brett, you could just go over that legal again, what all it covers. I believe it was focused solely on the insurance side, but if you could show that, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, so that is basically all that the legal protection. So there's 3 limits of coverage there. There's the 200,000 in employee disputes, the 50,000 in judicial review, and then the $1 million aggregate. So it's any sort of legal defense cost coverages that the insurance company would fight on behalf of the council in the town. Sorry.
All right. Thanks very much. I appreciate that. I just wasn't sure of the full extent, so appreciate that. Thanks again, Brent.
No problem.
And just to be clear, if I might, Mayor Kaysenberg, members of council, Brett, can you clarify when this policy would be used? Because if a claim was made, legal counsel has been provided to defend the municipality on the claim, but this particular protection hasn't been accessed. We haven't used this part of the policy. So when would this particular policy be engaged? What circumstances might?
Any sort of like employment practices or a employment disputes, wrongful dismissals, that's where this policy would come into play.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anyone else with questions or comments at this point? Okay, the treasurer has sort of circled this one line, this insurance coverage for legal protection. She's pointed out that we haven't availed ourselves of this and haven't had it in our policy for the last couple of years. So what is the will of council on this at this point in time? Shall we? Councillor Johnston, let's press the right button, there you go.
Realizing that lawyers charge an awful lot, and if we were to get into a case where this could cover us, it would come in handy. But on the other hand, if we haven't used it in many, many years, I think that $10,000 or almost $10,000 is better spent elsewhere. So I'm agreeing with with Fran's comments to remove it, and I would make that included in our motion.
Okay, thank you. Anyone on council want to take the opposite position? Councillor Duncan? You'll second that. Okay, so why don't we amend this motion to reduce the number? Can someone at the clerk's table maybe do the math here for us? Because we just need to change the number and indicate that we're striking that particular form of insurance from the proposal. So,
Brett, could you give us that number again that we're taking on?
Yeah, so it's $9,848 for the DAS legal protection.
so if you can give me an updated total figure. Hold on. Go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So subtracting that $9,848 would be a total of $275,208.
Okay, thank you. And we should probably indicate, and I'm going to turn to Ms. Hale just to check on this, that our intention is to accept a revised proposal which deletes or which removes the DAS insurance.
Through you, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah.
Sorry, it was the legal protection policy.
Legal protection policy. Thank you. Okay, so I think any other questions or comments before we go to consider a resolution here? Councillor Andreessen.
Thank you. So in the event that something were to happen with staff, would we not be protected at all then in terms of insurance? If we don't if we don't include this in the policy, that's my question. I know it hasn't happened in the past, but I'm just thinking, this is cheap compared to a real lawsuit. And I'd just like to be prepared in the event that something were to happen. I'm just feeling nervous about this. As I sit here thinking that, okay, yes, we're taking around 10,000 off, but in a real dispute, this would definitely cover it. So I don't know. I'm just having some second thoughts about it.
All right. Do we have any comment to be made from our expert or from Ms. Hale?
There's also under the liability portion, there's the $5 million liability for the commercial general liability, which also there is a wrongful dismissal and coverages which would cover for the legal expense on that end. So it's not like if there was any sort of legal defense that you would not have coverage for it. The insurance company would fight it. As Fran had said in the past, you have utilized an additional legal counsel for such for the DAS legal protection. And what I could do is I could provide additional information in regards to that after having the conversation with Marsh Canada tomorrow, if that's something that would give some peace of mind for sure.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments at this point? I have sort of trapped something of a revision to the resolution that's in our package that will take out this DAS legal protection policy. So I'm going to put that forward at this point, and anyone can shout if you're not happy with the way I've got it. So that the Council of the Municipality of North Perth accepts a revised proposed insurance policy renewal, which removes DAS legal protection policy from Marsh Canada Limited for $275,208 excluding HST for the upcoming year, and the Manager of Corporate Services Treasurer is authorized to sign the acceptance of municipal insurance program proposal, I assume as revised, for the 2022-2023 insurance policy period from Marsh Canada. I think we just strike those words out. Actually, that will make it sensible. Okay, let's turn to the clerk's table first. Caught it, seems okay, seems consistent with what we talked about. Let's turn to Treasurer Hale. Any concerns?
No, I really think it's quite good that, as Brett mentioned, if he'll bring back something to council, if he feels that it's something that the municipality really needs, and definitely food for thought going forward, whether you want to have this as part of your coverages annually. And I think it would be good to dig down a little deeper and just see how necessary and how comfortable council might be with having it or not having it, because I agree, $10,000 can be well spent if there's a $1 million matter that needs to be contended with. However, it's somewhat of a duplicate coverage. As Brett also mentioned, we do have coverages for liability for ourselves. So I guess I'd like to be really clear as to what, if Brett brings that back, as to what this package offers council and the municipality in terms of protection.
Okay, from my perspective, the resolution is silent on the subject of another report, but that's to some degree at your departmental discretion, right?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So it seems like we have a resolution that is worded that Ms. Jameson has at the clerk's table. Who would be in favor of moving this? Who would like to be our mover for this? Councillor Johnston, thank you. And Councillor Andreessen is our seconder. Any discussion or debate? I'm not seeing any, so let's have that vote. And that is carried as revised, and the revised insurance policy proposed will be therefore entered into as contractually. All right, we have no other departmental or staff reports tonight under item 5, which allows us then to move to item 6 on our agenda. From item 6.1, councillors, are there any reports you'd like to ask of staff or of our committees at this time? I'm not seeing any indication of that, so let's move forward then. For item 7, we have received 2 items of correspondence which invite our action. For item 7.1, and I know Councillor Andreessen is exiting the room, we have a request from the Listowel Agricultural Society, organizers of the upcoming Listowel Agricultural Fair, to provide in-kind support by the provision, including delivery and pickup, of picnic tables to the fairgrounds and their removal, as I said, at the conclusion of the event. Council, well, what is your will on this matter? Councillor Behrens, let me just jump to the microphones here.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, so I have a resolution that I'll put forward here as follows. That the Council of the Municipality of North Perth provides without fees picnic tables owned by the municipality for use by the Listowel Agricultural Society for the Listowel Agricultural Fair, which is occurring between July 14th and July 17th, 2022, and that the Council directs staff to deliver picnic tables to the location designated by the Listowel Agricultural Society in accordance with the timing of the fair, and claim and return the picnic tables to storage after the use period proposed by the Listowel Agricultural Society. The clerk's looking at me like, boy, that's wordy. Anyway, Councillor Behrens, you're still in on that one. Thank you. Who would consider being our seconder for this? Councillor Johnston, thank you very much. Any discussion or debate on this one? Sorry, poor Sarah. I'll give you the text afterwards. Let's have that vote. I'm the one who's, it's not taking. All right, that's carried now that my vote's recorded. My goodness. All right, let's move forward then to our next item here. For item 7.2, we have an update and request from the Huron-Perth Agricultural Society to, no, that's not right. Let's move forward. We'll find it. We have a request from the Agricultural Society related to noise and the noise they're going to create in the evening. In the evenings, I assume. We can assume that their intention is with regards to time limits. The clerk has advised me that there are a few different times that are mentioned for different types of activities related to noise in the noise bylaw. And perhaps the most appropriate choice here, based on their request for an exemption, is to just adjust the time limits for them for those 3 or 4 days that they're doing the thing. That's sort of what I get from this. But if anyone has another alternative here, they ask for an exemption. I think what we want to do is adjust the time limits to a certain point in time, like 2 o'clock a.m., perhaps. Anyone? Councillor Rothwell, let me get to the microphones here.
Thanks very much. I appreciate that. The fair is a great institution. The only issue I have is that sometimes they do go beyond 2 o'clock for some of the tractor pulls and so on, and depending on their number of entries and so on. So I would just hesitate saying, putting in place 2 o'clock and them going through till 2:30 or whatever the time. I know to my right, Councillor Johnson has emceed some of those events, and I do recall sometimes being later than 2. That's all I'm saying. Thank you.
Okay. Does anyone have any concerns about time limits on this? Just let it go overnight, all night. It's okay. Councillor Johnston, let me get your microphone here.
We just give them exemption for the weekend because, and unfortunately, Councillor Rothwell is right. I think there has been nights where I've been behind the microphone till 3:30 in the morning. And we're finding with people coming back to things, you're almost getting the 2 years extra worth of people. So if their normal tractor pull is 200 pulls, they could have 300 this if the weather's good and there's a truck pull Friday night and a demolition derby on Sunday night, and they could get overwhelmed. So I'd hate to say 2 a.m. and 3 nights in a row or 2 nights in a row. It's most of the night. I hope it's that way for the sake of the Ag Society, because that means it's successful. So can we just say for the weekend, from Thursday till Monday morning, we're exempting them? I think that would cover us off better.
Yep, that seems to be how they worded their letter. I wasn't quite sure what. Yeah. Okay. So for the weekend, from July 14th to 17th, we're saying that there are no noise creation restrictions on the agricultural fair. Okay. Then I do sort of have a resolution to this end, then, that the Council of the Municipality of North Perth provides an exemption to timing regulations found in the noise bylaw for activities generated by the Listowel Fair during the 2022 Listowel Fair period, July 14th to 17th, 2022, as requested by the Listowel Agricultural Society, and that Council directs staff to advise relevant parties of this adjustment for the specified purposes in order to avoid unintended enforcement. Right? You don't want the police to show up, the bylaw officers to show up, kind of thing, right? Seem okay? Okay. Who would consider being our mover for this? Clerk Klein. Let me just give me a second here. Go ahead.
Sorry, through you, Mr. Mayor, just to capture everything, should the motion read maybe to Monday, July 18th, just in case activities go past midnight on the Sunday, just so we cover all our bases?
Yes. That is sensible. Thank you. Okay. Councillor Duncan, you serve as Service mover, okay, and Councillor Anstead will second that motion. Thank you. Any discussion or debate on this one? All right, seeing none, let's have that vote. And that is carried. Thank you.
See everyone at the fair and that there's good weather.
Say it again on the microphone.
And we hope to see everybody at the fair all weekend, right from Thursday through to Sunday, and that the weather stays good.
Excellent ambition. All right, let's move to item 8 on our agenda, which allows council to consider bylaws. We have no official or additional bylaws to consider tonight beyond those we've already considered. We're now at item 9 on our agenda. Are there any councillors wishing leave to give notice of motion this evening? I'm not seeing any indication of that. That brings us to item 10 on our agenda. For item 10.1, are there any announcements that would be of benefit to our community or that reflect well on North Perth at this time? Those connected remotely may also request an opportunity to speak through the text chat window. I'll confer with the clerk to see if we have such requests. And those in the chamber, of course, may raise their hands at the appropriate time. Let's go to, let me just make adjustments here. Let's go to Councillor Andreessen. Go.
Thank you. Our family had a special celebration for our son Noah, who graduated from Guelph University since our last meeting. So we have another graduate, another Bachelor of Commerce graduate in our home. So we really enjoyed congratulating him the last few weeks.
That's very exciting. That's very exciting for any family, and certainly I think all of this council extends to our colleague and to her son our congratulations. Let's see what Clerk Klein has for us.
Not myself, but Mr. Jeff Newell has indicated he has an announcement.
So, Mr. Newell, you're welcome to unmute yourself.
Thank you very much, Mayor and members of council. I just wanted to recognize the effort of volunteers and community groups and staff in making the last 2 weekends in North Perth really, really exciting. Highway 23 was a busy spot for the Moncton 165th and the Atwood Lions Canada Day celebration. And I just think so much work went into it. The weather cooperated and they pulled off great events. And I just wanted to recognize them and thank them for all the work that they did.
Mr. Newell, thank you. And I think all of this council was abuzz before this meeting as we were gathering about the wonderful events that have happened the last couple of weeks. So again, on behalf of council, and I'm seeing lots of nodding heads, I extend our congratulations and thanks, deep appreciation to all of those who have participated in the two key events that Mr. Newell mentioned. And I'm sure there's more to come in just, 2 weeks' time. We're going to see the fair, and that will be another very big moment in the life of our community as we reboot, essentially, from the pandemic. Wonderful. Thank you. Clerk Klein, do we have anyone else indicating desire to speak? All right. So let's move to item 11. Per an earlier agenda revision, council will recall we have no matters for consideration tonight in a closed session meeting of council. That means that for item 12, we have no matters to report about since we did not hold that meeting. The council has a mandated good practice acts near the end of its meeting agenda to confirm all of its actions and business of its meeting through what is called the Confirmatory Bylaw. I have a draft for the Confirmatory Bylaw that reads, I need to turn the right page here, reads as follows. That bylaw number 87-2022 being a bylaw to confirm generally previous actions of the Council of the Municipality of North Perth be introduced, read and considered read a first, second, and third time and be finally passed, and that the said bylaw be signed by the Mayor and the Clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation. Who is willing to serve as mover of this one? Deputy Mayor Kellum, thank you, and Councillor Behrens is our seconder. Any discussion or debate on this one? Seeing none, let's have that vote. And that is carried with the abstention by Councillor Andreessen for reasons declared earlier. Thank you. And now, councillors, that means we have completed deliberation and taken action on the business that came before us tonight, and we did it face to face in the council chamber, and we're all still smiling, although we're feeling a little bit of the temperature increase that's happened in this room, I think, at this point. So we're glad that it's coming to the end. I have a draft for us. I have a draft for us now, a motion to adjourn that reads as follows: the council meeting adjourns at 8:20 p.m. to meet again for general council business on Monday, July 18th, 2022. That's 2 weeks at 7 p.m. Who would like to serve as mover for this one? Councillor Seiler, thank you. And seconder was Councillor Rothwell. Thank you very much. Any discussion? No, there's no discussion. It's not debatable. Let's have that vote. And that is unanimously carried. Council, thank you for your patience and coming in a little bit early tonight as we got our briefing on how to use all the technology around us, and we'll call this meeting adjourned.